Hey there, internet friends, and welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions of the thing. This show is made possible entirely by the support of our patrons over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. So if you like the show and you can support us over there, we would definitely appreciate it. But if you can't, no big deal. The fact that you're listening is awesome. And of course, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, ring notification bells on YouTube, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Execute Order 66.
Excellent.
Hey, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Today we are going to be talking all about Star Wars The Bad Batch Aftermath, specifically the first episode of the Star Wars The Bad Batch series. And this is basically the reason we picked this and all that is because we're going to kick off here, not next week, but in a couple weeks, we're basically going to do kind of a summer of Star Wars, where the idea is going to be, hopefully, this plays out. It'll be me, Cameron, and Logan just watching through all of the Star Wars films. I don't know if we'll actually do the Clone Wars movie, the animated Clone Wars movie. It's not currently on the
Probably
docket,
should.
but we might
We should,
we
though.
might throw it in there. Yeah, right now the plan is basically like 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, Rogue One, and then Solo, and then to round out a 3-month block, I've got Empire of Dreams, that documentary, thrown in there because we've talked a couple times about doing that. But yeah, we might throw the Clone Wars animated series in there somewhere. Part of it is I just don't I don't think it's really all that great, so I kind of don't want to include it, but
I
we will see.
I just love Stinky. I
Of
love
of
Baby
course you
Jabba the
do.
Hutt.
Of course you
He's
do.
he's adorable and he's awesome. And also, it's actually what's really unique about him. And by the way, this is how you know I'm a enormous Star Wars nerd. Most most young Hutts like Hutta actually don't leave their parent. For example, for just so people know, they reproduce asexually. Um, So Jabba sending his child out into the world is very abnormal and also very cool because it means that, Stinky forged his own way in life.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's basically it. We're a couple weeks late talking about it, for being on the ball for the show, The Bad Batch. But I figure it'll be a nice little kind of way to ease us into our impending summer of Star Wars. Because yeah, we're, as of this episode going live, I think episode 4 of the Bad Batch will be out. So we're really going to be kind of confining this conversation to episode 1, but I've been watching kind of the rest of the series as it's been going on. I don't know if you've had a chance to catch up on it yet, Cam, but
Nope.
all right,
Today was where I watched the entire first episode.
all right.
We'll get into it.
There you go.
So
So a little bit of the history lesson on this. This was one of the many May the 4th offerings that came out this year on May 4th, 2021. Other notable releases of the time, you had kind of other Star Wars Day celebrations on Disney Plus were Maggie Simpson in The Force Awakens from its nap, a basically a 5-minute Star Wars slash Simpsons crossover short. It was a fun little cute thing. Star Wars Biomes, which I did an episode on last week. It is a very weird thing on the on Disney Plus. That's basically just like flyovers of different Star Wars planets. And then similar to that, a Star Wars vehicle fly-throughs is another thing that kind of got put up on Disney Plus in honor of Star Wars Day this year. This
this
ep-
was for like the real this May the 4th
the,
was definitely for like the super nerds.
Yes, and this
Like me.
was clearly the showcase piece was the Bad Batch and kicking
Yeah.
off the Bad Batch series. And this one is notably a 70-minute premiere episode, so it was kind of its own little mini movie, really. Whereas the rest of the episodes have been more in line with animated 30-minute-ish, I think, things. In the Star Wars timeline of things, this, of course, kind of starts off very prominently with Order 66, and so the Bad Batch will be leading us into a post-Revenge of the Sith era, which we haven't seen too much from. Basically, like obviously like Rebels is the big thing we've seen, kind of outside of the film, canon of things. So this is kind of filling in some of those blanks in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And then also, I guess, Rogue One also, leads right into A New Hope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So for where it takes place in, this takes place like post Revenge of the Sith. For people who don't know, to New Hope slash Rogue One is about 20 to 20. Like I'm trying to think. I'm thinking it's 20 to 23 years.
Yeah, I want to say
Um,
it's like 20 years before Battle of Yavin, I think
yeah,
is
yeah, 20 years
around.
before the battle. BBY before the Battle of Yavin. Yeah, I think it's about 20 years, and so that's a massive chunk of time that for many
I
years
mean,
was just kind of a mystery.
I guess what like Luke is basically 18 when we meet him in A New Hope, right? So I guess it'd be like 18 years ish, or have
Chronically,
they aged him up?
I like that's the thing. There's some inconsistency between like where that's at. I believe 18 BBY was the last canon time that I
Hmm.
remember, but we're also like that where that's at now. That was pre Disney like huckstering the established expanded universe into the Legends category. So it's I know that, but basically the reason why I brought it up is because not to confuse people, but rather to say we are literally starting about 2/3 of the way through Revenge of the Sith in the timeline of things because they mention uh
I just looked it up. Sorry, it's in the year 19 BBY before Battle of
there
Yavin.
you go.
Sidious orders issued Order 66 in secret. So yeah, 19 years before
19 years
Star Wars: A New
before
Hope.
that one. And Rebels starts, I believe, 15 BBY, or maybe it might even be 16 or 17 BBY.
No, no, like Rebels is way closer to um, A New Hope. I want to say it's like 5 or 6 BBY.
Oh, sorry.
It
I'm
starts
working
like 15
backwards.
years later. Yeah,
Yes,
than
that's what I'm
this.
trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're right. I was thinking like 80 math, not B or BC math.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes place like 5 BBY
Yeah.
before the Battle of Yavin. So 5 years before New Hope. So this takes place way before that. So we get to see like there's really awesome stuff that like I'm really excited that Bad Batch is the first like go to for this post Revenge of the Sith pre Rebels era where we understand like because in 15 years the Empire established like this like iron grip on the entire galaxy. And so like what does that look like? Like how does that like there's so much there of like just so much impossibility and I love that we're getting to see that explored now.
Hmm.
Um it's just it's really cool. It's really great that we're getting that Disney is taking a foray into this because even in the expanded universe, this was still like a gray pocket area.
Hmm.
Like this was still very much like people just didn't traverse through this period of time in the expanded universe, which is crazy, but also it's I think that was always something that was like very well protected by Lucas, like not himself, but rather like the people in charge of the company at the time.
Hmm.
And so to see them kind of like we get to see this be explored. At the same time, in the other expanded stuff, we're getting like the High Republic stuff has come out, and it's
Hmm.
which is about like the Republic during its golden era. That because of course in the prequels, we're seeing the downfall of a very broken shell of a republic,
Hmm.
um, which ain't that echoing
Yeah.
to the world, huh?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like I never read too much of the legends kind of stuff growing up, but I do remember specifically in like middle school into high school. I think I read the Han Solo trilogy of like him kind of growing up, and obviously that has been replaced by Solo now as canon and stuff, but. I remember reading that and really enjoying kind of like his story and his backstory and just
they
like
kept, yeah,
them having fun
they
with
kept
him.
a lot of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the way they kept like the big like, I mean, some of the big beats, but like I just remember like that story being fleshed out over 3 books kind of thing. and
It was one
enjoying.
of the rare ones.
Yeah. Um, and so yeah, that existed during kind of this era that we don't get to see too much of. But yeah, I remember Rebels was one of the first things I watched when Disney Plus came out because I'd heard about it and just had never really I didn't have like Disney XD or anything like that, so I couldn't have watched it kind of prior to that. So I basically like
Yeah,
binged through Rebels like in the first month or so of Disney Plus coming out and really enjoyed it. And it's kind of cast of characters, and so I look forward to kind of just another adventure in because obviously we also had the seventh season of Clone Wars that has come out in between, which basically the Bad Batch was kind of backdoor piloted in season 7 of the Clone Wars. That was where we got introduced to a lot of these characters. So yeah, it's I'm enjoying the animated storytelling that Dave Filoni has kind of spearheaded over at Lucas for the last 13 years, since 2008 I think is when Clone Wars really started going off. So yeah, it's been cool to see, and I look forward to seeing where this goes, because he does a good job of like delving into and kind of defining things that hadn't really been defined in an era. Like with Rebels, we got to see kind of a lot of the rising of the Rebel Alliance, which of course we'd also see eventually in Rogue One, kind of at its like culmination. And with Clone Wars, we really got to flesh out, that period between episodes 2 and 3, to like bolster and in a lot of ways improve the prequels that were otherwise lacking. So yeah, I look forward to seeing kind of how and I don't like I'll be very curious to see really what the Bad Batch ends up being in terms of like how wide of a time frame it spans, because this first season we're getting is 16 episodes. Presumably it's going to be a multi-season kind of story, but I don't know what
it might
that's
not
going
be.
to look like. Yeah, I mean it could be a one and done, certainly, and then we move on to another story that kind of helps fill in those gaps. But yeah, like to what you're saying, like we're going to see how, and already we see from like this first episode even how Palpatine or Sidious starts really kind of like immediately hits the ground running on trying to remove Dissident. Without diving into spoilers, that continues on. We see that in the next couple episodes that have come out so far, and we kind of get to see the Empire starting to like really take its roots and dismiss and do away with parts of the old Republic, basically, or the Republic. Like here we in this episode in particular, we have Tarkin of course coming in and basically like wanting to remove or do away with like the clone troopers in favor of a conscripted army, and like Camino's basically like, but we have contracts, and he's like, the contracts you had were with the Republic, which no longer exists. Welcome to the Empire, ha ha ha. And so yeah, it's
Tarkin's so good. Like I love this this use of Tarkin
mm-hmm,
in this period of time, because we get to see like the establishment of this is the this is the man who will become Grand Moff Tarkin, who like it's great because also at the same time I've been playing the Old Republic MMO
mm-hmm,
from BioWare, and while playing that on stream when I was playing it, I was playing a Imperial agent. And what's really cool is I remember back when they were like building the original MMO build, they talked about and they revealed the Imperial agent. People were like, "Well, what kind of like class is that?" Because it's not a Sith and it's not a bounty hunter, Mandalorian type character. And they said that they wanted to build out a character type or like a character class type that was how like basically they based it off Tarkin, and they
mm-hmm.
asked the question, how does somebody who is just a regular quote unquote regular person keep a leash on somebody like Darth Vader? Like how much clout and like positioning and politics has placed Tarkin in a point where Darth Vader follows his orders. He doesn't ask Vader for anything, he tells Vader. he tells Vader that's enough to stop choking the guy. Like,
Hmm.
who is Tarkin as a character? And I love this exploration of Tarkin being like when he takes control of the Death Star, and like he just like is this insidious like I'm here for an inspection. I'm actually taking it over. I'm so impressed by this. I'm just taking it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like this swagger and grip that he has on his like what he does, and I am loving his use here in Bad Batch in the first episode. The
Yeah, I'm
fact that we're
just
seeing this Tarkin, because we got to see Tarkin's a good guy in the Clone Wars show, but he's a total skis, but he's a quote unquote good guy.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm just as you're kind of telling this, I'm throwing. I had not thrown the actor who plays Tarkin in the Who's Who, so I'm quickly kind of adding that in a little bit here. So yeah, let me throw just one more little credit in for him. But yeah, speaking of, we will dive into the roll call of this episode. The directors. This is a directed by three people. You have Stuart Lee, who is probably kind of he probably took point, I would say, given his lineage. He's worked on Star Wars: The Clone Wars, 23 episodes of that show, 15 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, as well as 19 episodes of Star Wars Resistance. Saul Ruiz had done 4 episodes of The Clone Wars, as well as 12 episodes of Rebels, and 6 episodes of Star Wars Resistance. And then Nathaniel Villanueva had directed 4 episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars prior to this. I believe they all probably worked in animation and stuff as well, but they are kind of those were their directorial credits. The writers of this first episode were Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett, and they both are kind of credited as writers and creators of the series. Dave Filoni, of course, a staple of Star Wars at this point, but his writing credits in particular tie to 13 episodes of The Clone Wars, 70 episodes of Rebels, but I think that's like because he's tagged as a creator / writer on all of those, and then 38 episodes of Resistance. Again, I think that's probably the same thing. And then he wrote 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, and will be writing the upcoming Ahsoka arc, presumably for Disney Plus. And Jennifer Corbett, a little bit more outside of the Star Wars world. She'd worked on 3 episodes of Star Wars Resistance, but one of her biggest credits is she did 20 episodes of NCIS. Starring, we have, of course,
That's a good gig.
yeah, we have D. Bradley Baker playing all members of the Bad Batch, save, I guess, Omega, who one of his earliest credits, I love pulling this out pretty much every time we get to talk about D. Bradley Baker, was Olmec in the Legends of the Hidden Temple series. Who knows if he'll be reprising his role as Olmec in its impending revival that just got announced a week or so back.
They have to.
You would think so.
He is D. Bradley Baker is such a legendary talent on whether it's sound effects, animal sounds, like his use of he did all the animal sounds for every single animal in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah.
And
I didn't pull it in here, but yeah, like Appa, he was Appa and Momo.
He's Appa, Momo, all of them. And what I love about it is he talks about his process of it. He goes, yeah, like I listen to like whenever, because it's a combination of animals in that series. He goes, I listen to like both animals, and then I kind of come up with like, how would you like hybrid their vocals together?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this man is just like, he is on another level. Like, we do not deserve the talent that is D. Bradley Baker. And yet he has blessed us with just a diversity in the clones with their voices. Just,
yeah. In addition, other notable credits, he was Daffy Duck back in Space Jam of Our Youth. I don't know if he's playing Daffy again in this round, or I don't think I saw that in his upcoming credits. He was Klaus in American Dad, who, if I recall correctly, is the fish. And then he has been playing many different clone troopers in the Clone Wars since 2008. Michelle Ang, is playing Omega here. A couple of her most notable credits were Fear the Walking Dead, as well as a Fear the Walking Dead Flight 462 kind of mini-sode series, which was basically like 1 minute episodes around a flight that was going on at the outbreak of The Walking Dead. So that was one of her big kind of gets prior to this. Ben Diskin reprises his role here as Azzy 3, a whole bunch of other numbers that I'll say later. He one of his earliest credits and his like the thing that kind of kicks off his IMDb is he was a kid in Kindergarten Cop. And he has done a ton of video game stuff, and I pulled it in here specifically for you and friend of the show, avid listener Christian. He plays young Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts 3 as well as Dream Drop Distance. Freddie Prinze Jr. makes his return here as Caleb Doom. Of course, Freddie Prinze Jr., known from She's All That, the Scooby-Doo movies, Mass Effect 3, Dragon Age Inquisition, as well as most notably kind of the character that he's playing in this episode, the Kanan Garrus, right? Is that Kanan?
Yep, Kanan Garrus.
Yeah. It's like playing Mass Effect right now. I'm like, no, there's not another Garrus, is there? But no, yeah, Kanan Garrus in Star Wars Rebels, and of course Caleb Doom here is kind of the precursor character to what that character will become. Archie Punjaba.
Also, can we just point out, voice is way too deep.
Oh yeah, no, that is absolutely something we will be discussing in the episode. Yeah.
Way too deep.
Yeah. Archie Punjabi playing his Jedi Master Depa Billaba. She has made another appearance on that D Plus show in the past when I did a quick solo episode on Bend It Like Beckham. She played the older sister of the main character in Bend It Like Beckham, and she has also been on The Good Wife, and she was in the movie San Andreas with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Tom Kane, of course, playing the iconic kind of narrator of the Clone Wars series. We get like one last little send-off of that character so far, as we lead into kind of a post-Clone Wars era where you don't really need a newsreel kind of character. But in addition to Clone Wars, he is known for a ton of other things, including I pulled in Powerpuff Girls. Andrew Kishino makes his return to the role of Saw Gerrera here. Ton of video game stuff, including a lot of recent games like Ghost of Tsushima, Maneater, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Jedi Fallen Order, Death Stranding, and Days Gone. He has been playing Saw Gerrera in the animated universe since 2012. Stephen Stanton, who I just added in, playing Tarkin, has been playing Tarkin in the animated universe here since 2011, back in the Citadel, I believe was his first episode. And in Rogue One, he was...
I like how it went, even though I have no idea.
Yeah. In Star Wars Rogue One, he was Admiral... Oh, crap, I didn't finish writing the name. Admiral... He's the not It's a Trap. Admiral Raddus. There we go. Saved it. Yeah, he's Admiral Raddus in Star Wars Rogue One. That like leads the assault on whatever planet that movie ends on. Bob Bergen is playing Lama Su here. He is currently the voice of Porky Pig and has been for many years. He also does a ton of kind of the English anime voice acting, including movies like Akira and Spirited Away. He's been playing Lama Su, who is the Kaminoan Prime Minister in the Clone Wars adjacent stuff since 2010. Gwendolyn Yo, playing Nala Se, was Pain in Final Fantasy X-2, which Cam and I talked about not too long ago on That Nerdy Site show. She can also be heard right now if you're playing the Mass Effect Legacy edition. She is in Mass Effect 1 and 2. In Mass Effect 1, she is Shiara, the consort. Shiala? It's like
Shiara.
One of them is like Shiara, and I think one of her other roles is like Shalia or something like that. She's another Asari in Mass Effect 2. And she has been playing Nala Se since 2008. I thought it was funny when I kind of was building the show notes for this, because I was like, I just saw Gwendolyn Yo's name in the credits when I finished Mass Effect 1. So it was cool to see her in here. Ian McDermott is kind of a cameo in here. I don't think he recorded anything new, but he's basically his audio footage from Revenge of the Sith is repeated in here and recontextualized a little bit. He's been playing Palpatine slash Darth Sidious, Sheev Palpatine slash Darth Sidious since 1983 in Return of the Jedi, rather. And then lastly, for our friend Chloe Naylor, I wanted to pull in Matthew Wood playing the battle droids, also known as, of course, General Grievous, as well as the battle droids for many of these animated things. Before he was Grievous, he was like miscellaneous other characters in the first two prequel movies, including Ord Mandrell, I believe, I think was the first, like his first credit, his first acting credit, I believe, who was a pod racer in Phantom Menace. A little bit of trivia here. The titular Bad Batch was introduced in the opening arc of Season 7 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Those episodes were The Bad Batch, A Distant Echo, On the Wings of Kiradax, and Unfinished Business. Basically, Season 7, for those that have not watched, is basically this, like, two stories in the Clone Wars, kind of, to wrap up the Clone Wars saga. Like, you have the Bad Batch arc of those 4 episodes, and then you have kind of a closing arc following Ahsoka in the lead up to Order 66 for the other, like, 8 episodes, I think. Jedi Padawan Caleb Doom here will go on to be known as Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels, the kind of one of the lead characters in that series, and medical droid AZI 34521189624649872137 helped Fives nearly uncover the dark truth behind the inhibitor chips in Clone Wars Season 6 before getting mind wiped, but he makes his return in this episode. And you know it's the same one because it's a joke that he kind of goes off and says his full number in his last appearance as well. So yeah, let's dive in there, Cam. What did you think about The Bad Batch?
I loved it.
Yep.
I think that'll, for a lot of people, especially if you're not like a very deep, deeply invested Star Wars fan, or slash, if you're just like not too into, just the like, I'm excited just because we get to explore this time and space in Star Wars history.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the lore gets me, but just as like a longtime Star Wars fan, like thinking about these time periods where movies and books didn't cover, and like thinking of like my own stories in those eras, and getting to see this kind of like, especially right post like Revenge of the Sith, is extremely exciting. It's something that I found we mentioned it, Season 7 of the Clone Wars, the very end of it, Ahsoka being turned on in the middle of trying to transport Darth Maul to Coruscant, and like all the hubbubaloo that happens with them, and like her very emotional, like this deeply emotional torment that she has after being betrayed by them. We get to see that mirrored again with these characters, these Jedi have been fighting alongside these clone troopers for such a long time, the loyalty that they have for each other, and then for it just to be turned on a dime just with a single order that just goes out. And between Season 7 and Bad Batch, I have often thought about it. I mentioned this before we started. I have often thought about kind of like the logistical issues with Order 66. That in A New Hope, we're led to believe, like, and in the New Hope series, we're led to believe that Luke is this last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've seen from as we've explored it, it's like he kind of, but not really. In that, by Revenge of the Sith, like Yoda thinks he is, but is he really? Is there something else out there? is he like there's a lot of like these gray areas that are up there with it, but what I've loved about this and what I really loved about this episode is we get to see young Kanan. Um, we get to see like the like just the betrayal in his in his actions and what he's dealing with, and knowing that Hunter and the Bad Batch were there
Mm-hmm.
is so cool
Yeah.
because it pulls into this also. It's like, well, what about clones that were different? What about clones that were damaged? And so we know Echo, who was not part of the original quote unquote Bad Batch of clone troopers, the incident that he went through that like damaged him ended up being like the thing that like messed with his chip.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get Crosshairs, who has a functional chip. And then I was really blown away by they can actually like take it up a notch
Mm-hmm.
on the like loyalty
Yeah,
factor.
they can basically amp up the chip because yeah, effectively what's going on with the Bad Batch, and I almost said something that would potentially spoil a future episode, so I won't get into that. But basically they mention in this episode that that they all have that inhibitor chip, but because of their genetic mutations, these guys didn't like get affected in the way that the regs do. But they do, like Crosshairs was affected to some degree, obviously, as we see kind of from the off him reciting the "Good soldiers follow orders," which was it's a refrain that's a repeat of another season 6 episode or season arc where basically like Order 66 goes off for a trooper early and he ends up killing his Padawan and repeatedly says good soldiers follow orders, good, like, and nobody can figure out why he broke and what happened and all that stuff. And so yeah, the fact that we kind of we're led to believe maybe that because they're genetic aberrations and stuff, they're not they won't succumb to Order 66 in the same way. But we do see glimpses of it there with Crosshair at the beginning, and so yeah, by the end of this episode, when they kind of amp it up, it's interesting to see like, oh, okay, like what does that mean for everybody else? Obviously, like they're not going to be hunting Jedi really because they, as you kind of touch on, like the Jedi Order is wiped out. There are remnants that kind of like escaped, like Caleb, like those who've played Jedi Fallen Order. Cal Kestis, kind of is another in this era who kind of has to go into hiding, but he is a Padawan who survived, and so there's they're out there, but without the Jedi Order, they didn't really have like a way of staying in touch and continuing to communicate and all that stuff, and so yeah, for all we know, by the time A New Hope rolls around, or all Obi-Wan knows, like. He's like, yeah, Yoda's probably still out there and safe, clearly, because he tells Luke to go to Dagobah. But like, they're so in hiding that there's no way they're a threat to the Empire, effectively.
So a fun thing and a tidbit here is that after Obi-Wan and Yoda returned to the temple and shut off the signal telling Jedi to come back to the temple, it's an emergency, come back to the temple, Obi-Wan puts out a final beacon message to everybody saying, if you haven't, like, if you're still alive, like, the order has fallen, go into hiding.
Yeah.
And wait for further orders. And further orders never come.
Did we see that in season 7 of Clone Wars? Did Ahsoka come across that beacon? Like, I'm trying to remember where I remember seeing that beacon. Or was that in Rebels? I guess it's probably by the time Rebels rolls around, somebody finds that beacon, right?
Yeah, something like that. Okay. It's in one. I think it's in one of the animated properties, but I think it also was in one of the games. Like a game had that in there as well. It might have been the episode 3 video game actually. But yeah, like so, like there is a like precedent for like they were told to await future orders. Future orders never come.
Yeah.
So they all stay in hiding, and I love that we get to play with this, like all these different notions. We got to see a young Kanan. Which like his story arc throughout Rebels is phenomenal.
Yeah, I was also going to touch on that. So Kanan's, or like Caleb Doom's kind of like origin has been explored in one of the comics of kind of the new era, and so this retcons it a little bit. Like I don't think the In that comic, there's no like the Bad Batch isn't there, so it retcons him a little bit, but it's essentially the same kind of thing. Like he's there on Caller, I think is the planet name, and he sees his master kind of slain, and basically runs and escapes, and has a resentment against the troopers for seeing that, and then eventually goes into hiding, and eventually down the line turns into Kanan Jarrus. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it was
I want.
it was definitely because I had watched Rebels kind of all in one batch. Like I remembered that Kanan wasn't his original name, and so like when I hear Freddie Prinze Jr. in this, I'm like, oh, is that like young Kanan? Is that like and I look at him, I'm like, I mean, it definitely looks like him, but I didn't remember the name Caleb Dune or Doom, and so I had to like
Mhm.
double check it and look it up. But so I like it was one of those like it almost flew over my head, but I almost appreciated that like they just kept Freddie Prince's super deep voice because I was able to make the ties. Because if it like pitched him up or something, I might not have pieced together that that it was him.
I
But
guess
yeah,
that's
it,
why
it
they hit
was
it.
it
It
was
was
also really offsetting to see this like
he's
14-year-old guy having like one of the lowest voices in the episode.
he's like 2 feet too short for that voice.
Yeah,
Like man, like that was jarring. I still think about it how jarring that is. But because I just rewatched the beginning of it again because I wanted to kind of like. But once again, like the idea of so like crosshairs, yeah, crosshairs also is interesting to note has the least amount of mutations, or at least the least
physically.
so yeah his mutation is his eye, like his eyes have been mutated,
Hmm.
and that's about like his eyes have been mutated, that's about it. And because he was designed to be a long range sniper,
Yeah.
regardless of whether or not he had a scope, and even with a scope he can still see like infinitely better because of it. Like he had like so his mutations are very minor compared to, I think the next one
Uh,
with the least amount is Hunter,
no, I'd say
and
probably
then
Tech. Like Tech doesn't.
Tech.
Yeah, like
Mm,
Tech has like extra.
yeah.
Like I mean, really, like they all in terms of like a physical mutation. Wrecker's the obvious. Like he's the one that like really like took a genetic bump. Because Hunter's is basically like he is hypersensitive to like the like he I it's not specified in this episode, but rewatching kind of the beginning of their arc in Clone Wars, it's like he can sense like an entire planet just by like feel or something like that. Like he can basically find his way around. Those senses have been heightened, and then yeah, Tech is obviously super intelligent and technologically savvy, and then Crosshair is the sharpshooter with the great eyesight and stuff. So like physically, I would say probably Tech and Crosshair are
Crosshair.
the least different, but they all like even they have a much I would say like a much narrower face compared to like Rex and Cody and most of the clones we've seen kind of
Yeah,
over
like
the era and
there's
stuff. Like they
they
they they're all
definitely.
uniquely designed enough
Mhm.
that like at a passing glance you wouldn't necessarily piece them at or ping them as your standard clones. So
Nope, not definitely would not. But that's what I loved about it is like the Bad Batch when they got introduced, I immediately thought was just like an incredibly cool idea. Like, why didn't we have more of the like? Come on, like why wasn't there more of these kind of things? And then you actually kind of get an answer for that. Like, why was the mutations were an interesting experiment, but it shows like the inhibitor chip doesn't work on.
yeah, I'm also realizing I guess I just kind of skipped over this trivia thing. I don't know how I just like completely missed it, but the Bad Batch's official designation is Clone Force 99, 99 being a reference to Clone 99 introduced in the Clone Wars Season 3 episode Clone Cadets. 99 was a deformed clone with limited physical abilities and overly rapid aging, who was working basically as a janitor on Camino, and kind of like served as an introduction to a lot of Domino Squad, which would go on to be kind of a focal point of many many arcs over the course of the series, including Rex and Heavy and Echo and Fives, I believe. They all kind of like met him when they were back at school in training, kind of thing. And so yeah, Clone Force 99 is a reference to them, and in their introduction arc in Clone Wars, Rex even has like a knowing wink and nod and reference to like Clone Force 99. Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted
Um,
to just shout that out as
that's
well.
good. I did not put that together, and now I'm thinking back to it, I thought they were making a joke about 69. Anyway, I digress. Like they're like, we can't make a joke about 69, so we'll call you guys Squad 99 because we flip the six around, it's a nine.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean,
Thought
like,
that's what that was
I mean,
about.
like, even the whole the premise of the Bad Batch. I like that, like, from a certain point of view, like every other clone trooper is the Bad Batch, and these guys are the good guy, or
Good guy.
kind of our our by the end of this episode, our heroes minus Crosshair basically are the good guys, and so theoretically everybody else who succumbed to Order 66 and just devastated the Jedi would be really the Bad Batch, whereas these guys,
Yeah.
they turn their back on the Empire effectively when they tell them to go and like murder insurgents and stuff, and they're like, no, they're civilians, we're not going to do that.
And it wasn't. They're like, wait a minute, these aren't insurgents. This is Saw Gerrera and like refugees. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like these aren't real insurgents. Like, what's going on here? And I love that moment when like the the display of individualism and like what they do here with Bad Batch in this first episode Aftermath is so good. As far as like, I get it, like this is definitely not like this, I'll be upfront, I don't know if this show is going to be for everybody,
Hmm.
even like Clone Wars like fans. um but like this is like scratching so many itches for me. One, it is a focus on people over superhero Jedi. I love those stories in Star Wars. I love seeing the everyman in Star Wars stories because the universe is so great that like you can have these really great stories, and we're getting that explored deeply here with this. And I'm very excited to see like to watch more episodes, catch up on it.
Hmm.
It's excellent, man. I really enjoyed myself watching it. Like I said, I don't know if it's for everybody because there are like some parts that I think, while interesting to me, I can recognize are going to be kind of like okay for other people.
Yeah. I a couple of things I want to kind of give some love to, like the given that this is like a extended kind of premiere episode, they clearly put a lot of extra resources into it. Most notably, I think we get like two or three really good action sequences. We kind of get like the reintroduction of the Bad Batch in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
pre Order 66, and then we also get the certainly their showdown kind of at the end. I'm trying to remember. Oh, and the battle, of course, against like the training droids and stuff. Basically, the test that
Yep.
Tarkin throws on them. Like, so you get kind of three great little showcases for how this team works together, or against each other by the end. How they are kind of unconventional, but that works in their favor. Which a lot of that is a retread of their introduction in Clone Wars, but for people that maybe didn't watch that, or are kind of new, or just didn't even remember some of that stuff. Also, we get to see basically Echo, kind of how he works with the team now, because the
Mm-hmm.
part of his arc was basically like joining the Bad Batch at the end of the arc in Clone Wars, and I appreciate that even that is like not incredibly common knowledge, which we like. It's explicitly stated, by the end of this episode. But the idea that Tarkin, Lama Su, or whoever's Nala Se rather, says, we only have 5 enhanced clones left, and he's just assuming because he saw Echo fighting with them that Echo is one of those 5, when in reality it's Omega. And it'll be curious to see really what Omega's enhancement is over the course of,
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
I'm
series. Like
I'm
basically
very
my
excited about her
yeah
as a
my
character.
my like one of my final notes is like Omega shoots Crosshair's gun out of his hands with her on her first shot. Does her enhancement rhyme with giddy chlorians? Because and
God, I hope
especially,
not.
I mean, like, agree. I mean, well, like, I will be very intrigued, because if it does, if the idea is she is a clone that was created as kind of a force sensitive clone somehow, that does a further great job of kind of segueing into what we're seeing a little bit in the Mandalorian with the
Yeah.
Grogu stuff, and then what we later on will see it by the time Rise of Skywalker rolls around with like Snoke and all that. So it could be even like planting the seeds of like, can you create a Jedi or Sith clone? Was that being worked on way back here in the the Revenge of the Sith era days? Um,
I don't want it.
I I it, I will
I don't want
I
it.
will be curious to see how it plays out. Like I mean like even in Mandalorian they don't like refer to it as like midi chlorians, they call it like the M count or whatever or something like that. But like
I don't want it.
um it's I regardless I will be curious to see kind of what Omega's arc pans out as. The one probably the like my biggest like I guess drawback or kind of like down note on this is especially after 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. I don't know how quickly we needed to hop back into like the military kind of figure now being responsible for a child. And this
Yeah.
type in this case it's like, oh, there's five of them that are, or four of them that are responsible for this child, but it's still it's basically like Hunter and Omega are the new Jin and Grogu.
Well,
And
I think what we got from the Mandalorian is a lone wolf and cub, like that story of like the you know mischievous but gifted child of this cold and stoic figure.
mhm.
And in this one, we get five clones and a baby,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
which is the like Mandalorian was very much like this tale, like this very classic tale, and this is definitely I think going to be played up more for it's Omega and her five dads.
hmm yeah. Four
Should we
dads
consider
since
yeah,
Crosshair.
whatever.
I wouldn't really
Yeah.
count Crosshair in there. Um, speaking of like Omega and her five or four dads, I appreciate that that the little it's not a bunny. I just don't remember what the alien name, but the bunny, the teddy bear bunny thing that Omega grabs is exactly what Wrecker was looking for because of course Wrecker's a big old softy. Like the characters themselves I really like, especially like Wrecker. Continuing on into the first couple episodes is just a runaway like favorite of like he fits that great kind of archetype of the big brutish character who's not going to be the smartest bulb in the bunch, but because he just decides to take things on with brute force can be a lot of fun. um, and seeing him kind of especially play off somebody like Eka or Omega, I think will be a good time. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think anything else to kind of pull in as we touched on. Like Tarkin is kind of planting the seeds on doing away with the clones and
Which is
like
great.
and the Kaminoans are kind of like wary of that. I know Tim Geddes over at Kind of Funny is wondering if the whole season is going to build up to something that is very near and dear to his heart, which was basically like in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, there was like a mission or a level that was basically like clone troopers versus stormtroopers. And he's
Mhm.
like wondering if everything's basically going to build up to that. I think it'd be cool.
That'd be
Like, and it all
that'd be
takes place
sick.
on Kaminoa.
Camino.
Camino, yeah. Sorry, Camino.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that actually is a really fun mission.
yeah.
Um, oh man, no, I love it. So like, I really like the idea that you have these competing theories because Tarkin always hated clones.
hmm
Um, because Tarkin just like that's just part of his character. Tarkin is the colonial British archetype.
hmm
So, um, no, I like the idea of like just everything they're doing with this.
hmm
But I will say when it comes to Omega, I like I said, I want a story about like normal people. Don't give me more Jedi mumbo jumbo. Okay, we got
hmm
enough Jedi mumbo jumbo everywhere else. Like, not everything has to be about the Force, Dave Filoni.
She's it's
Not
she it,
everything has to be about the Force.
it's interesting because she's like part maybe Jedi, part just mystery box, and I'm like, like there's a lot of risk of that kind of character. especially if like we don't find out what her deal is too soon. Like as we're talking, I immediately think of Clara from Doctor who basically
Yes.
gets introduced as like a MacGuffin, and then they had to basically spend like the next two seasons actually creating a character out of that MacGuffin. um, and so I hope that Omega kind of gets more characterization, and we don't have to deal with that a similar mind. But one like even it's already happening because one of my favorite little touches, especially as I rewatched the episode kind of in the lead up to recording this episode, was I caught it the first time around, but I really just enjoyed it this time when they're all in the cell together and like Hunter's kind of coming up with the plan. If you watch Omega, she's basically mimicking everything he does. Like whenever he's like got his hand on it over his face, like she's sitting there, pensive. When he like points at something, she kind of sits there and points at
Mhm.
something. And so she's just like she's really just trying to like mimic and be as much like Hunter as she can
Oh,
in that little sequence, and so it's a fun little
she,
bit.
huh? She might be. Um, this is interesting actually because she actually Omega means the end. Like
Yeah,
that's what Omega
the
means. It's
yeah
the end.
the final. I mean, like the a lot of the theory videos are like Omega, last letter of the Greek alphabet. She could be basically the culmination of the Camino cloning efforts.
That's where my thought went to as well. But like, if the Bad Batch was an experiment with mutations on clones, if she's the last of the specialty clone series,
Hmm.
does that mean that like she's mimicking him, which is fine, but then later she also shoots out
Yeah, she's got
Crosshair's
like
gun?
yeah, she could just be a little bit of everybody.
Yeah, she could be just like a little bit of everybody, being kind of like the everyman, or
Hmm.
like sorry, not the everyman, the just like the jack of all trades with it.
Yeah,
So it's like, oh, she is technically like and that would actually be really cool, setting up kind of the father daughter situation between all the four clones and her. Is she kind of is a culmination of everything about them, so they could all kind of take on this parental figure and mentoring her to being kind of this total badass, which I would love. I think that's way better and way cooler than her. She just has midichlorians.
hmm. Well, we will see how that all plays out. Until
I know
then,
she's gonna have midichlorians. She's gonna have midichlorians. I know it. I just hate it. Okay.
she
I know. I know. I don't get what I want. I
I-
never get what I want with Star Wars.
she did have some fun in this episode, starting a food fight with a whole bunch of clones, and then I also I touched on it briefly there, but I enjoyed the kind of the breakout sequence of them like escaping the little makeshift jail, because I like the idea of like, yeah, this whole place was retrofitted and none of them were prepared for a wrecker type of character, so he can just go and like whack a vent and create an opening. I appreciated
And it's a
just a lot of
scientific
those little things.
facility.
Exactly, yeah,
It's a scientific facility. Why would they have like prisons? They're not going to be like, this isn't going to be like a high grade or like high security prison. It's a cloning facility.
yeah,
Like, these are scientists, not wardens or like guards. Like, the guards are literally their test subjects. Like, come on,
yeah.
it makes total sense. That worked out perfectly for me. So
We touched on him a little bit, but the idea of the Bad Batch being sent off to try and dispatch Saw Gerrera clearly also sets basically Saw and his people on the path that Saw will eventually go down. Because right after everything goes down, he is immediately targeted by the Empire, by Tarkin. Like, so clearly, like he sees them as a threat and knows that he can't trust anything on that side. Like they were allies, a week ago, and now they're out for his head. So, it kind of makes sense where he ends up by the time we get to something like Rogue One, where he's just gone a little bit batty. Trying to think if there is anything else I wanted to give a shout out to or give some love to. Oh, I like the line is another like Easter eggy like trivia thing kind of thing, but just the line that Tech has towards Echo, you are more machine than man now, is of course a nod to the future line that Obi-Wan will tell Luke about Anakin. He's more machine than man now.
mhm.
And then yeah, like I
That's awesome.
the opening sequence, I think, while like it, the introduction of or the reintroduction of the Bad Batch is a fun little action sequence, and then it's also kind of like very exposition heavy of like, hey, if you didn't see their introduction in Clone Wars, we still need to kind of give you like the gist of all these characters and kind of what each of their feature is, and also we need to like give you the touchstones of where this is in the timeline of things. So I love Tech kind of like getting over the encrypted comm channels. Like, oh, it seems like we might be the war might be over because Master Kenobi has engaged against General Grievous on Otapau. So it's basically like, okay, well, Order 66 is coming in about 5, 4, 3, 2. Yep,
Three,
goodbye,
two, one.
goodbye, Depa Balaba. Um,
I thought it
uh,
was going to happen at least. Like I forgot that like General Grievous, the fight with General Grievous happens at the same time
yeah,
slash
I
after.
mean, basically, like he kills Grievous, and then like Commander Cody almost immediately tries to kill him.
But the thing is there's a huge break because we get the scenes of Anakin on Coruscant
Mm-hmm.
talking to Mace Windu, like all the stuff leading up to the attempted arrest of Emperor Palpatine, or sorry, Shreve Palpatine,
Sheev,
Chief
Sheev Palpatine, yeah,
no, Sheev Palpatine, but what's his title again in
Chancellor,
Chancellor? It's not Grand Chancellor, it's just Chancellor.
yeah.
Okay, whatever. The Chancellor. So like
I mean,
he
maybe Supreme Chancellor. I don't
Supreme
remember.
Chancellor. That's what it is. It's Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. So he's Supreme Chancellor. He gets they try to arrest him. He gives the epic line, "I am the Senate."
Mm-hmm.
Proceeds to lay waste to like Jedi Masters and has the epic fight with Mace Windu, where Anakin inserts himself and causes Mace Windu's death. And then I forgot, like right after Mace Windu dies, he like Shreve goes straight into execute Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that that happens. Like so, the arrest on Palpatine happens at the same time that the fight with Grievous is happening. At the same time that we're getting the Bad Batch here. You know, fighting. He's engaged General Grievous. It's like cool.
Mm-hmm. As
So
you said, the same time Ahsoka is trying to get Darth Maul.
mhm,
Yep.
to Coruscant. Yep, because those are like reinforcements that have been like head towards Coruscant instead. Um, no, it's awesome. I love how they kind of fit everything together, and now they have just this awesome scope to play with awesome characters from the Clone Wars who survived that they get to play with, and who knows, we'll probably get some sad deaths from Clone Wars characters that don't make it to Rebels. Uh, we got to see Saw Gerrera basically get turned on and like the start of his dark journey. He was already kind of on a dark journey,
Yeah, I
to be
mean, like
fair.
he definitely started going down the path of like, a
Terrorism,
freedom
yeah.
fighter kind of guy in Clone Wars. But I feel like we most of what we see of him is when he's already gone, off the deep end a bit more in Rebels. But yeah,
Yeah. Although I loved his character in Rebels. I love Saw Gerrera as a character.
hmm
And is it like, and also, save the rebellion, save the trees. Uh,
I mean,
Shout out to
his
you.
name is Forrest Whitaker, so
Yeah. Um, Gosh, yeah, no, I'm loving this. It's great. I can't wait for more episodes, which there are, so I should go watch them.
yeah.
There's so much. There's too much good things going on right now. There's too much good stuff happening.
hmm Yeah, it's good. And then like one of the things that as we started talking, I was like, oh yeah, like we're obviously this is going to span some of the breadth of time, but we've also got the Obi-Wan series that is filming basically right now, which is going to you know also fill in a gap during this era. So that's going to be something to look forward to as well, and see kind of where that falls in the timeline of everything. Yeah, it's fun. It's like, for as much as like the Rise of Skywalker was a bit of a letdown, like, and for a lot of people also the Last Jedi was a bit of a letdown. I personally love Last Jedi, but I get why people don't. Um,
I have my issues with it.
yeah. Um, but like that, all of that aside, like it's still a great time to be a Star Wars fan because we're getting
Oh,
so many cool new stories, and delving into parts of the era or the eras that we haven't seen before on the TV front / Disney Plus front, on the films, because eventually we're gonna start getting the like the Ryan Johnson trilogy, and I don't remember if the Game of Thrones guys are still working on a trilogy or if they got pulled off of that,
Nope.
but nope, they're off.
They got
Okay.
it. They got fired.
Well, there's still more Star Wars movies somewhere down the line, but then we also have kind of the live action shows. We're gonna get a friggin' Boba Fett series theoretically by year end. So yeah,
The season 3 of The Mandalorian.
I I
Uh,
no, I think we've talked about this. The Book of Boba Fett is a separate thing.
oh, you're
I
right.
don't think
You're
it's
right. Yeah.
Mandalorian season 3. It's basically we're going to get like the Book of Boba Fett, and then we'll come back for Mandalorian season 3 somewhere like a year later, I think.
With Jedi Knight Grogu coming to learn the ways of Mandalore so that he can take his proper place as the Mandalorian.
Sure.
The Mandalorian with the midichlorians. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
As you
go.
as you touched on, we're getting stories set in the High Republic, which could potentially open the door for a return to the Old Republic in game form. And we're also, I mean, we're getting more games. We're going to get a Jedi Fallen Order 2. We're going to get that game from Ubisoft Massive, who do the Division. So yeah, there's a lots of Star Wars in the years to come. So it's a good time to be a fan. Way better time to be a fan than maybe it was during the many dark years between like Episode 6 and Episode 1, or after the prequels, and it was like, oh god, that's what we're going out on.
If you read books, it was still a pretty good time.
Yeah,
The books have often, in my opinion,
but
um,
like I would
books
say,
have softened the blow. Books have softened the mighty blow that was the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
yeah, admittedly, I never read again a ton of the like extended canon, now Legends canon kind of stuff, but like even there, I feel like only a handful of the many books really rose to like the cream of the crop. Everything else was like, oh, it's good, it's cool, it's more stuff. But like I think of like the Thrawn trilogy,
Mhm.
and like the Tales from the Star Wars Cantina, the Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales from Jabba's Palace. Like I think of those kinds of stories, fleshing out little parts of the world, which is effectively now what we're getting in TV form. We're getting Thrawn
It's great.
in Rebels, and then eventually presumably in the Mando / Ahsoka / whatever era of stuff. Because like yeah, I mean I mentioned Ahsoka, but there's like two other live action series I think planned, in addition to a handful of other things that they announced at Celebration or something last year. But
It's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
yeah,
Period.
and I say that because there are a lot of people out there that would be like, "You're throwing too much Star Wars at us." I'm like, no, there's no such thing. Like yes, it's possible. I guess that you could get quote burnt out on Star Wars, but if it's like good, then no, like you won't. Like it's the idea
Yeah.
of like we've had like a ton of Marvel stuff over. We've had 22 Marvel films over the last 13 years. Basically, like Clone Wars and Iron Man came out in 2008. Um,
Gosh, 22
and
films.
nobody's out there thinking like we have too much Marvel stuff, or if they are, they're fools because like most of the Marvel like cinematic universe is great and fun. And so I would argue that like it's only a problem if it leads to, creative missteps or something like that, which I won't say we haven't had in Star Wars, but I would still say like the good far outweighs the bad over the last
For sure.
over
I
our lifetimes.
The thing about Star Wars and even Marvel to an extent is like if you get burnt out, well, what are you getting burnt out on, right? Like, are
Hmm.
you get like, am I pretty burnt out on boring Jedi characters? Yeah, so I didn't play Jedi Fallen Order. Like, I didn't play Jedi Fallen Order. I didn't play like
You'd
I
actually
haven't.
probably like, even like story aside, you'd probably really enjoy Fallen Order because it is a Souls-like game.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
like
thing.
very it's like I liked it, which means it's not a intense or like probably great Souls-like game, but it's that kind of combat, and if you ramp up the difficulty, it's there for you.
Yeah, that's what always what's kind of drawn me to it. That and like the like lightsaber customization, a lot of like the things that they implemented in the game that I think are really cool. But at the end of the day, I can't stand another vanilla bean Jedi boy. I just can't. I'm just done with it. I like we already had enough. We don't need another one. And that, especially when you surround him with like way more interesting characters. And I'm not talking about Fallen Order. I'm talking about other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's a lot of things about like Star Wars. So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of burnt out on Jedi gunk. So I've been playing the Old Republic, which is a like way set way before then, where I play as the Wrath of like the Empire's Wrath, where I basically get to go around and and like cut people down with my lightsaber because I'm a cool guy like that. I get like where you're getting things like Bad Batch. I like if you're getting burnt out on an aspect of Star Wars, there is more to Star Wars than that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Explore,
Yeah.
get deeper into it. Like learn. Like here's the thing. There's an entire thing about droids. Like there's an entire droid stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you after learning more about droids, if you're like, hey, this seems very familiar, you're spot on. You're right. We know. Don't need to say anything else. We know.
Okay. Um, one of the things I just like you mentioning that I just thought of is like one of the things I'm like super excited for this year, which I assume it's still going to come out this year, is the Lego Skywalker saga. Like basically a because it seems like it is not just like the Lego Star Wars games that we've had up to this point. It's going to be kind of a new approach slash new take on all of the nine movies in Lego form. So I like even that I'm like super excited for because I'm a huge fan of the Lego games. And I
I'm
know that
not.
I know that I'm going to get into the, half of the Star Wars movies that I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm still going to have fun playing them because they're going to have the Lego charm behind them.
Yep. Like that's
Um
the thing. I think that it captures it perfectly. Like there's so much about Star Wars, and I feel that same way about Marvel. Like,
yeah.
oh, you're tired of the big like dramatic superhero stuff? Cool. Watch Ant Man.
Yeah.
What like there's so much else out there in these universes. That's why they're universes.
Mhm.
And I think that when you explore that, if you're like I'm tired if you're like I'm tired of space and sci-fi, you got me. I can't help you with that.
Yeah.
Like you're just like maybe if you want, but if you're like I want no sci-fi, only modern day, okay, Star Wars not going to be for you. That's
Yeah.
fine. I respect that.
Yeah. You had mentioned before we started recording, and I just want to make sure we covered it. I think it was probably the stuff you're talking about with Order 66, but you basically had kind of like restarted watching the episode right before we started recording to like figure out was it the timing of Order 66? Was it all that kind of stuff that we talked about? Okay.
Yep, because like
And
I
yeah, I
will
mean,
tell
like
you,
it happens in a very abbreviated span in this show compared to maybe like what you were expecting. But I would also like the core, the comms that he intercepts could have been a couple hours old or something like that
oh
of
for sure.
Kenobi engaging with
And
Grievous.
what I liked about it is it actually tied in episode 3 into a much tighter knot for me,
Hmm.
time wise, than it had been before. Before I thought there was like these lengths of time between certain events, but now that I know they were happening simultaneously, it actually makes Sidious like Darth Sidious's plan even more devious
Hmm.
and much more of a master stroke than aha, I said Order 66, all the Jedi died. Aha, I win. Like I like that we're exploring out beyond that where it's like it was actually like a really critical master stroke. He is the genius behind both the separatist and the republic. He's going to play both sides against each other to like collapse them both into forming his own empire from the ashes. Like it makes Darth Sidious and like slash Chief Palpatine a much more insidious and darker and much more nefarious villain, and I think helps play into the watering down of the quote unquote the emperor that we got from like the prequels and even some of the Clone Wars. I like that it's like, nope, this is an absolute masterstroke because
Hmm.
if you look at the timing of it, he nailed it.
Yeah.
From letting Anakin know at the opera, like Anakin letting Anakin know at the opera to the following, like to not even the following night, like later that night, like is when that is all happening. And I'm like, da, 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 yeah, okay, so that makes sense. It's all fitting together. It's all basically in the span of like this. Like I did not realize Revenge of the Sith was like a 24 to 48 hour period of time.
Mm.
Like that is wild that they
Yeah.
were able to do that. that this is what this show has caused me to suddenly realize
mhm.
is like that's just such a cool moment to think about.
One of the last little shout outs I want to give to is you pretty much like are, I mean, we're given a lot of hints throughout the episode before the, final kind of like turning point that Crosshair is going to be the, the bad, he's going to break bad, basically. Break Bad Batch. But my favorite moment is when they're kind of observing the quote unquote insurgents from afar, and like he's looking through his scope and he's just like ready to snipe an old lady right in the head. Like he's just
Yep.
ready completely off her. And it's basically like the grandma from Moana or something like that is pretty much what she looks like, and he's just ready to murder her. So yeah, there was little chance of him being redeemed by episode's end, and having seen kind of where some of his stuff goes in the future episodes, it'll be interesting to see if they try and pull some sort of redemption arc with him, because I don't know how well that'll pay off.
Well, it's
But
the chip, Trevor. It's the chip making him do bad things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
And also,
that's
he's a sniper at like by his like job as like
yeah.
his position
It's
in this sector. It's that's kind of
yeah. There's so when I'm playing.
snipers aren't necessarily the most what's the best way to put it, non-sociopathic people.
Yeah, when I'm playing Mass Effect right now, I typically run basically as a sniper, and I'm just like picking people off with my Widowmaker or whatever from afar.
do you, do you
And
feel anything when you do it? No, you don't,
no,
because
I was picking off Vorcha last night from 50 feet away or whatever, but I was doing the same thing that Crosshair does in a lot of this episode, where he's just like running around with his sniper rifle up, which is not typically how people are doing doing that, but that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like always basically aiming down sights and just like moving into position to take out my targets.
what I
So
love about
yeah,
yeah, what I love about it though is like no nobody like when you see the world through a sniper lens, you don't like you're not a normal person.
yeah,
So like
you are
so
disconnected from them. Yeah.
yeah, so Crosshair is like looking at picking off an old lady. Not surprised.
Yeah, or I
And
mean,
also,
he tried to like shoot Caleb out of the tree earlier.
yeah, he succeeded in shooting him out of the tree.
I mean, yeah,
He
like sorry, he tried to shoot him, like he tried to murder him while Caleb was in the tree earlier.
yeah, and he ended up shooting him out of the tree, and then you get that awesome lightsaber sequence with Caleb dropping his robe, taking out his lightsaber, and that awesome sequence of the moving back and forth, deflecting.
Hmm.
Like there's such great fight scenes in this episode that like I'm just so excited to see more of it, especially like for where like just getting the feel of like what these characters are, in a way more not we're soldiers,
Yeah,
we're
even
the
that,
bad batch.
even Hunter letting Caleb go, I
Mhm.
appreciated that Crosshair basically knew like right from the off, because he made the observation like usually if I kill somebody, I'm looking down, not across, to see where their body went. So I thought that was a great observation of like, yeah, no, he's spot on. Hunter definitely gave away the game in that one. But yeah,
The
lots
way
of
the way that oh gosh, the way that he like like the I'm super excited to see the future episodes because you mentioned that Crosshair's in them. The idea of Crosshair hunting down this fugitive squad
mhm.
is a really cool kind of. This is funny. It's kind of a cool like Valjean and Javert
Mm,
kind of like uh, cat and mouse chase, the cop and the fugitive.
yeah.
It's really cool. I love the things that they're setting up. I love the way that we're exploring the universe, the galaxy in this show, and I'm excited to watch more. I'm very excited to watch more.
So I already know where they're going in episode 2, and they kind of tease it at the end of this. Do you have any inklings as to where they're off to, who they're going to
Nope,
see? Okay.
no
Well,
idea.
I will not spoil it for you. Um,
Sounds good.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and grade the show, grade the episode. This is where we grade it from A plus to F. Cameron, what do you want to give the Bad Batch Aftermath?
I would love to give it an A plus. I would, but like realistically, like I mentioned much earlier in the show, um, I can see where this episode had shortcomings. I can see where this show might have shortcomings because it doesn't have the quote unquote hallmark Star Wars appeal. Um, with that being said, like I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think to give it like if people were to ask like where it should be scored, also with some of the things in it, I would probably give it a like an I just would give it a solid A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
probably
much
give
I'm
it
right there with you.
I should give it a B plus, but I won't. I'll give it an A.
Yeah, I give it an A. It's definitely a show that I think, especially this first episode out, I think is really strong outing for it.
Mm,
Um, I don't I don't know if they'll maintain that A consistency over the course of the series. I think we'll probably see some dips and
16
stuff,
episodes
but then
or
maybe
more.
some even higher highs and stuff. But this one out, I think, is a very strong way to kind of kick off and introduce this. Especially, I mean, like I still very much when I describe the show to people, I'm like, it's basically Clone Wars season 8. But obviously the Clone Wars have ended, so they couldn't really like call it that. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I look forward to seeing where it goes from here.
I wanted
Uh,
to remind myself that Logan said it was very okay, and
yes.
uh, so Logan, because I try never to swear on the show, poo poo on you and your opinion. It's bad.
Yeah, Logan was originally supposed to join us, but he had a kind of a medical thing come up last minute, so he was unable to. But he did watch the episode and basically said like, I thought it was okay. I'm interested to see where they go from here, basically with it. Interested to see what a season of this looks like. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this one. You've got, of course, Star Wars The Clone Wars, the series. You've got Star Wars The Clone Wars, the movie. You've got The Mandalorian. You've got Star Wars Rebels. You've got Star Wars Resistance. You've got Star Wars Clone Wars, the 2D micro series, which was another thing that finally made its way onto Disney Plus with May the 4th. Um,
Ooh, yeah, I got to go back and watch some of those episodes. The one with Mace Windu where he takes on that entire that droid robot
mhm.
and like punches it to death.
Yeah,
You watch that.
that's
Oh god, that's so good. That entire season, like that entire show is really spectacular.
yeah, that's a good because that's what Tartakovsky or something, the guy behind Samurai Jack, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, go check that out. You've got Lego Star Wars All Stars and Star Wars Rebels shorts, which are basically a series of short little 2 to 3 minute I think things set in the Star Wars Rebels thing for like interstitials on Disney XD. Extracurriculars. You watching anything else on Disney Plus these days, Cam?
No, I'm pretty much this is gonna be what I watch.
Okay,
I'm gonna be watching this.
cool.
That is for sure.
I
Um I'm trying to think if there was anything else recently. Oh, I did rewatch Moana recently.
okay.
So that was great.
Cool. I am, in addition to watching kind of the Bad Batch as it comes out each week, I'm also still keeping up with the Game Changers, of course, that we did an episode on. The beginning of April to kick off Mighty Ducks month, the unanticipated Mighty Ducks month. I've continued watching that series and enjoying it, and then High School Musical, the musical, the series, season 2 started last week, so that is now also in my Friday rotation. And then in addition to all that, I'm slowly making my way through the third and final season of the DuckTales reboot because that show is just phenomenal, and I'm sad to see that it only made it 3 seasons. But I look forward to seeing how, at least they knew it was only going to be, they knew that this was going to be their final season, so they were kind of like send it off on its own terms. So looking forward to seeing the rest of that. But yeah, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about The Bad Batch here. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, my stream. I am streaming Monday and Wednesdays from 6 p.m. to whenever I get off. It looks like after this last one. Um, PT Pacific time right now, and yeah, like tune into that because we're having a lot of fun over there.
Cool, cool.
And I can say we because I have an actual audience now.
Hooray! You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. The shout out I will give is this week's Let's Plays were all about Cuphead, where on Tuesday, me and Logan tried Cuphead and failed miserably. So if you want to watch an hour of us just banging our heads against the wall, you can do that. And then the episode that went live today, as of recording, was basically me trying to redeem myself and playing through, and successfully playing through pretty much all of the levels of the first island in about the same time that I spent with Logan, getting through one. We got through one total level across our hour together. So, yeah, if you like seeing somebody who's really bad at Cuphead, I've got 2 videos for you there on youtube.com/thatnerdysite. You follow everything we do over at That Nerdy Site. I also will give a shout out to both this week's That Nerdy Site show as well as that News You Care About, where we delved into, among other things, I mean, That News You Care About was mostly about what's going on in Palestine. In particular, the IGN kind of like story that kind of developed over the weekend, but Cam and I talked about it on That Nerdy Site show as well. So if you want, please check out those episodes for resources to learn about and support everything that's going on in Palestine. The ceasefire news, I think, broke a few hours ago as of recording, so hopefully that means things are on the mend, but that does not mean things are anywhere near over for the people who've been suffering out there. So please give and support if you can. And yeah, if you liked what you heard, once again, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share all the podcasts with your friends, all that fun stuff. And if you do feel so inclined, you can always support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Thank you for joining us. Once again, we will be, I want to make sure I have the people coming on for next week, so I won't say what we're doing next week, but starting in June, the first Friday of June, we'll be kicking off our Summer of Star Wars with Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And the plan is basically to do a Star Wars movie every week for probably June, July, and August. So check out all that if you dig some Star Wars stuff. The turns out the impromptu Mighty Ducks month we had was a nice little fun thing to just kind of stay on theme and stay on a topic. So let's do it all summer long with Star Wars. It's something we've been talking about for a little while now, and we're finally pulling the trigger on that. So check that out. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.